All righty, guys. My name is Brian Hilliard, author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro and Winning in Direct Sales. And we got ourselves a treat today. We have Joanne Bonnet, who is a network marketer who has achieved the top 1% of success in her company. And I know you hear a lot of people where they're like, oh, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And they're trying to act like they're doing all this stuff. Joanne's actually done it. Okay. And I cannot wait to hear about some of the good stuff that she has here to say today. Joanne, thanks so much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
It's fantastic to be here. And as you can hear, I am in the UK. We met on an international networking group. So it's an online networking group, the only network. I've been a member in the UK. They've expanded to the US. You joined in because you're all about connecting with new people. And I love that. And so we had a conversation. We were talking about speaking and training and network marketing. And here we are. And I just love, there are people everywhere who have great things that we can learn from. So thank you for asking me.
Oh, this has been a pleasure. I love it. This is excellent. So, one of the things that really, when we were talking, that really gravitated towards me was this idea of your story. You talked a little bit about how everybody has different ups and downs, different dips and things like that. Talk to us a little bit about how you got started in your network marketing business and kind of just a little bit of your story of what that actually looked like.
Yeah, well, it's 13 years since I started this network marketing business. And at the time, I do think there was a lot of misinformation or people were looking for education in this industry. I was one of them. I was skeptical. I was working in corporate. I was a marketing director in the IT industry. So I kind of went from software to skincare without really planning to.
Right.
But my driver was my family. Where I live in the UK, it's very busy. I was commuting into central London with two young boys and just realized that they deserved more of my time and attention than my boss did. And
Right.
I was very open to this idea of there's got to be a better way. There has to be a different way to do this. But I don't think it's untypical to say that my story started with me reaching breaking point. I was very much burning out, trying to juggle all the things. And when I kind of stopped, I quit. I got out of corporate. I didn't know quite where I was going. So I was doing consultancy and freelance work, went to a women in business event, came across the company that I've been working with now and partnered with for 13 years, had no idea really what network marketing was.
Right.
But I was curious and
Right.
I said, is this something that I can do flexibly around my family? Is it something where I can be in control of my time? Is it something where I can make a difference? And can I earn some money? Because at the time I was looking to replace a significant corporate career. And it was also the time of the global financial crisis, the credit
Right.
crunch. So similar, not the same, but a time of massive change and uncertainty, which I think is very relatable to the times that we're in right now as well. So at a time where I wasn't sure quite what was going on in the world or what was going to happen next, what I did know is I can take control of what I do and how I respond to the situation, and I can start something and build and grow. And you did say, I'm just going to say this once, the business that I work with is Arbonne, which is mind, body, skin,
Right.
nutrition and skincare. And I always say, you talked about the top 1%. Actually, just total transparency, my business has had a bit of a dip in the last couple of years.
Right.
And I would always say, for what's typical, look at earnings.arbonne.com. And I had an untypical story because I did grow my business to a level that was, that top 2% plus of the company within the first year. I was very focused and I learned a lot. And I wouldn't say that I run my business today in exactly the same way as I did back then, but there are a
Right.
lot of things that I've learned on the
Right.
journey. And
Right.
my boys are no longer young boys at school. They're both graduated university. One's living and working and teaching in China. One has just now
Right.
started a job in London. So life looks very different today as to when I was that busy mum juggling my business around it. But my goodness, am I grateful for all the opportunities it's brought into my life?
Well,
Yes.
and that's the thing too. I think a lot of times, and I want to get into this because we talk about this idea of you have some daily success habits, and I wanted to get into this, this concept. But I think one of the things that, just going back from what you said, is that a lot of times getting back to the kind of the backstory a little bit, for everyone that I've interviewed, I think that's a true statement. 100% have said something similar to yourself, which is, I wasn't planning on doing this. I decided to take a look at it, and then I did it, and it worked out.
Yep.
You,
Yep.
you know what I mean? I would even say that's a similar story to me. I'm not in the top 1% of my company. I'm doing something a little differently. It's a different philosophy. That's fine. But like, just the idea of trying to do that is really interesting. And I think that, that gets into a little bit of mindset,
Yep.
that
Yep.
gets into, being open, that gets into faith and things like that. I know that's a big part of what you do. Let me get into this first one here, because I think this is a really big one, which is this idea of the daily success habit and celebrating every step in your journey. You talked about that. I've heard you talk a little bit about that. Unpack that a little bit for us so that we understand, and some of the listeners could understand, like, how that impacted you and maybe what you're recommending that they consider.
Absolutely. So behind me, or in front of me, as I'm looking at in front of my desk, I have a sign that says joy. And it is a reminder to find the joy in all circumstances. And on every step of our journey, joy does not mean it's going to be easy or happy all the time, but it is actually, what can I find that will bring joy? And sometimes, like, it's just got to be, the truth is that sometimes you're trying to find the joy in a difficult situation, and it might just be, what have I learned from this, and what am I going to do differently next time?
Right.
How can I be better from it? But I think so often we come into this industry, and you see that, if you get to this level and this level, and there's definitely rewards and benefits from going for those big goals. But also, what happens is, if you set yourself that goal as your only target, it's like it's like a weight loss goal, it's like an exercise goal, it's like a competition goal, or any other financial goal that you set. Then you feel like, if you haven't yet achieved that, it's like, I'll be happy when, I'll feel successful
Right.
when, I will have achieved when, I will be
Right.
valued when. And actually, if you realize, I am enough, I'm moving forward every single day, and you can celebrate the success steps on the journey, then that it motivates you to keep you going. It provides fuel for the journey. And so it might be, I showed up today. I showed up, I learned something new, I did something. I was consistent with my daily activity and the habits that I know are going to help me to grow and move forward. Maybe it's celebrating a new customer. Maybe it's celebrating a customer reordering. Maybe it's you, attending an event and learning something new. Maybe it's just recognizing, what, today, whatever your company is, I've benefited from being part of this and using the products, and I have a support network around me. So finding joy in each step of the journey, I think, is important, because that's what keeps you moving forward and feeling like you're on that upward trajectory. I mean, I don't know if you know, the success curve. Jeff Olson talks about it in his book, The Slight Edge. And it's like,
Yeah.
the little things we do every day, the compound effect of doing little things grows. And if we can celebrate and find joy in the little things every day, then that's going to lead to being more joyful about the whole journey.
I love that, because I think what happens is we set these financial goals, we set these team company goals, these levels, these titles, these goals. And I love it. I actually wrote it down, which is the idea that the collateral damage on that is that the implication is that I'm not enough now, but I will be when I get to this point.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, and then when you get to that point, then what? If
Right.
that's been the point, that is the mark in the ground, where you go, well, when I achieve this, then I'll be happy, successful, I'll have served, I'll have given, I'll
Right.
have made a difference, made an impact. Then
Right.
what do you do? Do you just stop there and go, okay?
Right.
Or do you then beat yourself and go, oh, now I've got to set another goal? Well,
Right.
yes, set another goal. But if you've been finding joy in every step of the process, then you're not going to feel that there's, oh, I've achieved that. Because the reality is, I
Right.
hate to say it, it's a lifelong journey. growth, personal growth, growing yourself, growing others, making a difference. So you can't easily just put a stake in the ground. Yes, you can say, oh, this business has grown to this amount and there's this amount of sales and therefore I've achieved this new title, this shiny star badge award, whatever. That's great, but it is not the only thing, is it? So don't make that in itself the joy that you're going for. Find the joy on the way there and beyond it, because then there'll be more to come.
I love that. I love that. One of the things that this also dovetails into is this idea of finding your rhythm. You know what I mean? And we talked a little bit about that, which is finding your rhythm and am I doing the key things to be successful and things like that. Talk a little bit about what that looks like, because I think that really dovetails into this celebrating every step along the way.
Yeah, and also it evolves. So if I look at when I started this business with two young boys, they were going to school and they were busy and there were clubs and there's lots of sports and activities, and even though I was working mostly at the start and I had a lot of time to give to my business, but I was also doing consultancy business. I was also helping my husband get a business off the ground. So it was a busy, busy life. Now, if you told me get up at 5 a.m., do a miracle morning or a morning routine at a time, that wasn't going to work for me. But what I could do is find pockets of time throughout the day to make that fit.
Okay.
Now my life looks quite different. My kids aren't at home. I have a lot more space, and I do like to start the day with a good routine. Now, I'm not saying it's at 5 a.m. It might be
Right,
7
right.
a.m. and 8 a.m. now, but that suits my lifestyle. And I also know I've heard leaders who've said, I talked about, get up, do this routine, start the day doing this, start doing that. And she says, and then they had a child or a baby, and I'm like, I've had no sleep tonight. I'm not getting up an hour earlier to do it, because that's not going to fit. But what I can do is have a few key things. I call it your daily method of operation or your daily
Right.
habits. And
Okay.
in terms of your business, there are a few key things that I would be thinking every day if
Okay.
I'm wanting to move my business forward, or every day on the days I'm committed to working in my
That's
business,
fair. That's
because
fair.
the
That's
business
fair.
needs consistency, but you need to be working it consistently but not constantly. We can come to that
Right.
in a minute. But
Right.
when you're on the days where you're consistent in working it, you're going to want to be reaching out and connecting with new people. You're going to be reaching out and connecting and following up with people that you're already talking to who might be interested. Maybe some customer service and follow up with existing clients. Asking, I always talk about get your ask in gear on a daily basis, asking someone just to take a look, have a
Right.
conversation, find out
Right.
more about them.
Right.
Learning and growing, something that will help you to learn and grow each day, because this is all about how we can become better as well. And then how are we helping someone else? And so if I
Okay.
can look at the end of the day and go, I've done something in each of those areas, that's great. And it might work for you to do that all together. First thing, maybe a power hour of activity. It might be that you chunk it depending on your commitments with family and work and other
Mhm.
things. We know most people do not start a network marketing business as their main income. It may become
Not
that,
initially. Right.
but
Right.
it's often fitting around multiple other things that you have going on in your life. So find your rhythm, because in the same way as you don't want to compare your journey to anyone else's journey, because your goals and your drivers and your dreams are not the same as anyone else's. So find the
Right.
rhythm that works for you, but find it and do it.
Right.
That's the
Right.
thing. You're still going to do the work. It's not net.
Well,
It's not net play around and hope it happens marketing. It's net work marketing. So
that's exactly
you're still
right.
going to do the work.
And I think that that's a good point. You talked about the idea that you have different things. When you started off, you were getting up at 5, maybe 5:30. Now you're getting up. I think you said 6:37 or something like that, which is fine. But the
Maybe
the
a bit
point
later.
is that you know, you found something that worked for you, and then you went through it. Now, the other point that I also want to make for people, based off of what you said, is that you also got your momentum from your initial fast start. So, to put it a different way, maybe you don't have as much of a fast start if you had done it the opposite way. Started at 6:37 and then tried to go back to, oh, excuse me, then tried to go back to 5. or whatever, 5:30 or whatever the case may be. So it's in a lot of ways, I think, and this is, I think, an important point. It's being able to be successful in network marketing. And again, I think this is for a lot of businesses. You got to recognize that you got to, first of all, get into that right mindset.
Hmm.
And then you got to be able to just get into action. And
Yes.
in a little bit of that is getting up a little bit earlier than maybe you wanted to. It's also getting up, excuse me, it's also doing a little bit more action than maybe you had originally thought, right? You're
Hmm.
talking about making an offer, asking, things like that. It's also about prioritizing, right? And making sure that what you're doing is a priority for the business. Talk to us a little bit about how you kind of juggled all of those things in terms of prioritizing. Like, did you do 3 hours a week on your network marketing business, or how did you go about that exactly?
I think one of the phrases that became really useful for me and for our team when we're talking about business is earnings producing activity. So
Okay,
there's a difference between working where it is earnings focused and working where you're busy doing work. So, as
you're
much as
right.
there's a lot of stuff that's really important, like, yes, showing up for the trainings, yes, going to the events, yes,
Right,
connecting with your team, training and coaching your team, using the products, researching the products. All of those things are really useful, and they
right,
provide that strong foundation that allows you to then
right,
move into the role where you are sponsoring, enrolling, and selling products. But what you actually find along the way is, the earnings producing activity in my business. What is an earning producing use of my time is, am I asking someone to take a look at the business or the products? Am I
okay,
having a conversation with someone that could lead to them buying or joining
okay.
my team? Um, and am I helping them to do the same so that they can duplicate our
Interesting. So
work?
facilitating and training and
Yes.
teaching them.
So,
Okay,
but
okay.
sometimes just having a catch up or just learning or being on the training, it's not in itself eyes in the game. Like, have I got eyeballs in front of my business, my products? And so I would focus on having at least focus on having 10 hours a week. Was
Okay.
kind of a thing that I used to keep a track of. Have I spent 10 hours a week, or how many times today has this story been told by me?
Interesting.
How many times today has someone that hasn't previously taken a look or that is on
Hmm.
the journey of discovering my business moved from where they are to another step of engagement that could lead them to being involved with what I'm doing? Um, and that has been something that I've tracked. Now, does that mean I've worked 10 hours a week in my business? No,
No,
often there's more.
right.
But if I'm busy and thinking I'm really busy, sometimes I'd find myself realizing I've been busy making flyers or organizing an event or
Right.
organizing the files in my office so they're color coded and look great, or reading a book or watching a podcast. That's all good stuff, but it's not the earnings producing activity. So if you're time limited and you want to be focused, that's where you add in the focus.
That's interesting because it's an efficiency
Yeah.
conversation, and it's being able to be efficient with what it is that you do. Now, one of the things that I also really liked was when we were at Only at our meeting. It was really your meeting. I was a guest. Was the idea of your introduction and kind of how you go through and communicate what you do to others? Because I think for a lot of people, they are they get hung up with that. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. So when you're meeting people, what is it? Or maybe you're going out networking. What is it that you are saying to folks, like as an introduction for them?
Do you know what? It's so funny because you put me on the spot. I've been doing this for 13 years, but I have never had a defined script.
Okay.
And someone out there might be going, really? You've got to have a script. Now, of course, I have an idea what I'm going to say, but
Right.
I also, in the same way as I don't want to script any conversation when I'm talking about the business or the products, I have key points that I want to make, and I know
Right.
those. But
Right.
you also have to allow yourself to have a human conversation and an interaction,
Correct.
because we are
Right.
not I'm not a telesales person with a script, you know. So at a network meeting, I might say something like, "Hi, I'm Joanne Bonnet. I love working with wholehearted men and women to help them look, feel, and live better. I've been working with the brand Arbonne, which is vegan skincare, makeup, and nutrition for 13 years, and I love the way that they can help you have a healthy mind, healthy body, and beautiful skin. And so, if you'd like to talk about that and also how you might be able to live better, then let's have a chat."
I
And
love that.
that was off the
Let
cuff,
me
but it's a variation on that.
No, I love that. And let me say why I love that so much, because it's very conversation. We haven't really talked about this, but it's very conversational, and it's very fluid. And it also, to your point earlier, hits the key points. And I think sometimes this is why I wanted to talk about this. I think sometimes what happens is we get hung up. Like, we're like, oh, well, I need to say it perfectly, or I need to memorize this, or I need to, make it so it's this, that, and the other. And actually, you don't. What you need to do is you need to have an idea of what you're going to say. I work with these people to help them get this result. If you'd like to be a part, I'm just making this up. If you'd like to be a part of this, you can do that. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can do this. Like, there's different things that you need to hit, obviously. Okay. But you don't have to have this big script.
And the thing as well, it's interesting. I mean, in a networking environment, it might be more generic, but I might also be,
Right.
I've noticed my business has evolved from where I was when I started. I had a really powerful story about people
Okay.
who've had a strong corporate career, been good earners, and have made a change, who are stay-at-home mums who still want to make a financial impact for their family, but also be there, and also the satisfaction of the contribution. So that
Right.
working mums was a very strong focus. Now
Okay.
my life and business has evolved. Now I have continued to be relevant to have that conversation with working mums
Okay.
because I've been there, I've lived that.
Okay.
But what I'm also now living is the empty nester, um,
Right.
the healthy aging, that
Right.
natural embracing who you are, side
Right.
of things, and the midlife. So,
Right.
I'm in my 50s now, so I talk about, midlife. There's things that, Brian, you may not want to talk about right now, but I talk a lot with women about menopause and midlife,
Right.
and
Right.
and healthy aging, and how we can make an impact. And it's not always are my products that are the answer, but I have
Right.
learned some things along the way. So if you were to see me on Instagram, you wouldn't instantly see me selling products and talking about my
Right.
business. But my
Hmm.
intention is always, let's have a conversation, let's engage, because when people connect, then you find out. And here's a big thing that I think is a really big success tip for anyone in this industry: is not everyone is going to be right for your business. And sometimes it's a really empowering thing to have a conversation with someone and go, I'm not sure this is for you. Because when I said at the start, I love working with wholehearted men and women, that's true. That's a really big value for me. I want people to approach their life, approach their business, approach who they are in a way that is, yeah, that is wholehearted. And that some brings to me this idea of an energy, of a joy, of a, you know of a intentional growth mindset. And now that is something we can learn, and that is something that a lot of people start and they go, I'm not there yet, but they might go, I'd like some of that. What do I do? And then they will do it and start to grow.
Right.
And that is one of the most satisfying things I've found on this whole journey, is
I,
helping
oh, I'm
work
sorry.
empower people on that journey.
I didn't mean to stop you. Did you finish your
No, no,
thought?
no, you always need to stop me. I could talk forever.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. I was just going to say, I love that. I love that idea about having a conversation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think sometimes, specifically in the industry, what happens is we're focused on a conversion. We're focused on a recruit. We're focused on a product.
Mhm.
Uh, you can always have. So for me personally, in my own business, speaking, coaching, doing that kind of stuff, obviously I want to put myself in front of people who are potential clients,
Yeah.
either speaking or coaching. that goes without saying. It's a business, not a
We're
hobby.
in business, yeah.
Right. So, but that's not the end all be all.
Mm.
And it's a little bit like, I'm a big sports fan. It's in basketball. They say if you are intentional and if you are um, really making sure that you're doing what you need to, you're driving to the basket. Because what happens is when you're driving to the basket, one of two things usually happens, and they're almost always good, which is you either score or you get fouled, which puts you on the free throw line. And you're supposed to score from there.
Yeah.
So very rarely at the professional level do you drive to the basket, miss, don't get fouled, and you're just like, I can't believe it. Very rarely does that happen. So what happens is, in a network marketing, what does looking to score look like? Excuse me, looking to have a conversation and obviously looking to score. It's getting contact. It's calling people. It's reaching out. It's engaging. It's commenting on people's Facebook or Instagram or maybe even LinkedIn posts. It's just being out there and being in the flow.
Yeah.
That I think is really important. Which brings me to my last one of the last questions I want to ask you, which is, we talked about the daily success habits, celebrating every step. We talked about finding your rhythm. I know you have several. Pick out one that you want to be able to kind of finish off with that you really resonates with you, because they're all good. We can sit here and have another call just on those. But give us another one so people can really hear, your thoughts on that, because I think that's another good one.
Well, I think I'm just going to track back very quickly to what you just said with the
Oh yeah, of
basketball
course.
analogy. Very
Okay.
quickly is the summary of that is you've got to give yourself a chance to be in with a shot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you can't shoot from being back here. So you do
Right.
need to move the conversations forward so
Yes,
that
you
you
do.
can have that next conversation. Because let's face it, our businesses it is about helping people. We're either helping people with products that can have a positive impact on their life and lifestyle, or we're helping people by giving them a business that could create lifestyle choices.
Right.
um, but my final tip is I talk about this, and this is not the "ooh, drive it, go for it" kind of comment, but it is about space for grace.
Okay.
I mentioned that I have had ups and downs in my business. One of the things I've learned being a business leader, having teams of people around the world and people close to me over time, is that life happens.
Right.
And life is always going to keep happening. And there are times when you might say, I'm working this business in these hours and this amount of time this week and every day. And I fell into a trap of thinking if I'm not doing something every day on my business, then I'm going to miss that momentum. It's going to stop. But I reminded myself, first of all, even God took a rest for a day.
Right.
And it's renewal, and it is important to be able to find that joy again by
Right.
spending time connecting with family, friends, faith, fun, all those things that
Right.
enable us to be better in ourselves,
Right.
and to give ourselves that grace that, okay, you missed a day, okay, that didn't work out, okay, you put
Right.
time into a conversation with someone and it ended up not being the right fit for them at that moment.
Right.
That's okay. Make sure
Right.
that the conversations you've had with people are positive so
Right.
that they go away. And this is one of my big pleas for anyone in this industry. Whatever your company is, we're not all in competition with each other.
Right.
We need to be supporting the mindset that this is a great business model, that this is a way that we can support and empower other people, and therefore have a positive conversation so that even if someone goes, that business, those products weren't right for me, but I really had a positive conversation and a good experience. And give yourself a bit of grace. Don't compare, especially don't compare someone else's highlight reel. Do not compare my highlight reel to your everyday life, because we know out there on social media, even on the days where you go, okay, this is a vulnerable post, or you're seeing a bit of behind the scenes, we're not seeing everything. That's just the way it is. So give yourself grace to know not everyone has got it all together, but
I love that. I love that because, you get into the comparisonitis. We've
yeah,
talked a little bit about that, and I think one of the things, talk about comparisonitis real quick and also finding balance is, that a lot of people, they think that, oh, to your point, I need to be working, pushing, working, pushing, 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 working. And, you talked about space and grace. Space is being able to give yourself and others the space to be able to make a decision the
Yep.
space to be able to find, be ready for your service. Ray Higdon talks about this in terms of renewal. He talks
Yep.
about meditation. Okay. So it's being able to give yourself space to be able to do things that you enjoy doing, give
Mhm.
other people space to be able to come to you in terms of once you've given them the information and ask for the business. And then Grace, to your point again, that's more of a spiritual conversation. That's all right. Listen, I'm going to give myself the grace that not all the shots are going to go in, not every time is it going to work. And and it doesn't make a difference necessarily what other people think,
Mhm.
where other people are at, what I think I should be doing. Okay. It's
Yeah.
it's a
Stop
conversation.
shoulding.
Right. Right. It's a conversation around where I'm at. And you brought this up earlier in the show. What is it maybe that I'm learning or can learn from that, right? What's the lesson from this season that I maybe can pick up? And I think that, you talk about ups and downs and dips and things like that. The biggest thing that I had to learn, one of the biggest things that I had to learn, especially when growing my business, was this idea that, it is success is not a straight line endeavor.
No. No.
Okay. And no matter what it looks like now, when I was growing my business, I still am now, but when I was getting started, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet as
That's
we know it
true.
today.
It's
So
true.
that's fine, but we didn't. So there wasn't as much pressure to like, oh my gosh, this coach is earning, there's coaches. Let me tell you what, sidebar. There are coaches on LinkedIn that I see. I actually had to block one of them because I know that he's full of beep. I know it. I know it. I'm sitting there. The guy's been he's the guy's trying to say he started his business in 2021 and acting like he's this 30-year veteran pulling in clients all the time. And I know that doesn't happen because I've been there. I've talked to people. I've talked to other people. I've been there again. I know that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just, when you have, and now we're getting a little bit of a confidence thing as well. When you have the confidence in yourself to move forward, these things usually work out. And Space and Grace is a great way to be able to do that. I appreciate you bringing that up. This was a pleasure. I really appreciate it. It's one of those things where, like I said, we could talk about this kind of stuff all day, but it is really, really informative. So let me do a quick recap for everybody. We talked about some daily success habits. We talked about celebrating every step in the journey. We talked about finding your rhythm. We talked about space and grace. We got into a little bit of balance. We kind of side doored mindset a little bit as well. And then we got into some of the different things that, not everyone is right for you. Let's have a conversation. There's a bunch of good stuff. Hopefully you guys are taking notes. I know I certainly was myself. Really, really good stuff. Joanne, how can these folks keep up with you or maybe find you online? What's a good spot to do that?
The easiest way to contact with me actually is on Instagram at the moment. So I
Okay.
am at Jobo, so Joanne Bonnet, Jobo. It is a genuine nickname. People call me that. So
Okay.
Jobo. So it's at Jobo underscore silver underscore linings. Now
Okay.
that's an interesting Instagram start. It's like it started with me stopping dyeing my hair and embracing my natural hair in
Okay.
lockdown. And
Okay.
it's evolved into the place where most conversations are happening. And if
Okay.
you're on that page and you think, the conversation on the Instagram page isn't necessarily what you think ties in with this conversation, that's what direct messages are for. Drop me a message. I'd love to connect. And then we
Okay.
can find a way to take that online conversation offline, because I believe that's where the magic happens.
I love that. I love that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Joanne Bonnet. My name is Brian Hilliard. We're saying so long, take care, and thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.